Welcome back into the second episode of the Card Report featuring the Player Heat Index. I'm very excited to have all of you back for our second installment of the Card Report. Some improvements from last week that I forgot to mention on my video. Like and subscribe the show. That should be the number one thing that I say every single week on this YouTube channel is to like and subscribe the show. Also, be sure to check out right here on the screen my Card Report eBay store, where all of our rips will be available that we're pulling out of our retail boxes on a weekly basis. We also have a slightly different setup this week. You can see that camera angle is a little bit different as well, so we can clearly see the cards, maybe bring them a little bit closer. So made a few upgrades for episode number 2, and you can always see some of these improvements on a week-to-week basis, and they do say the biggest improvements are always seen from week 1 to week 2, and so here we go with the second installment of the Card Report. Before we get into the Player Heat Index rankings for week number 2, some breaking news coming out of the National Basketball Association. Luka Doncic, his market is volatile as we speak. Luka will miss the remainder of the regular season for the Los Angeles Lakers, and his availability for the NBA playoffs is uncertain as Luka suffered a grade 2 hamstring strain. Again, the uncertainty surrounding his injury and his timetable for a return is concerning not only for the Lakers postseason, but also awards season. Luka sits at 64 regular season games played. That means he's just one game shy of the 65-game threshold to be eligible for the NBA postseason awards. This raises some doubts over Luka's ability to capture the NBA scoring title this season. Although his agent did appeal the rule by filing an extraordinary circumstances challenge. But if we look at the raw data for Luka's Player Heat Index there that you can see on the screen, his latest injury, that grade 2 hamstring strain heading into the NBA playoffs, drops him by 59 points in this week's Player Heat Index. His market may soften on some of his base cards. Luka is still one of the top players in the league. I certainly would not hit the panic button just yet due to something that could be resolved in a matter of a couple of weeks, but it's still a good bet to hold his cards at the moment, especially any rookies, whether they are raw or in PSA 10 condition. So that's Luka's update as we head into the NBA postseason with just a few games left for our teams across the league. But now we're going to get into this week's Player Heat Index. A quick refresher on the Player Heat Index, or the PHI, for our new viewers, but also our returning viewers from week 1. Every single week, I'm going to score the hottest players in the sports card hobby across 5 categories: sales volume, price trajectory, on-field performance, search demand, and cross-market appeal. Players also receive bonus points for award races, seasonal timing, and upcoming product releases. We're also taking a look at some other sources like GemRate.com. GemRate grading data tells us where the smart money is submitting cards before prices move. On the Player Heat Index each week, scores run from 0 to 110. Obviously, the higher the score, the hotter the market. So let's get into this week's numbers. And there you can see on the screen the overall rankings for this week, coming in at number 1 and staying at number 1 from our first edition of the Card Report is Wemby. He's coming in with 105 points this week. At number 2 is Cooper Flagg. We saw Flagg go up just one spot from number 3. He's now into the number 2 slot for this week's PHI. Shohei Ohtani is down 2 points from week number 1. He now sits at number 3 with 98 points in this week's PHI. Checking in at number 4, SGA, 94 points. He was at number 6 last week, so he did not get into the top 5 in week 1, but he has cracked the top 5 rankings for week number 2. And then at number 5, rounding off our top 5 for this week's Player Heat Index, is New York Yankees' very own Aaron Judge at 92 points. He's down from number 4 last week. He now sits at number 5, and so that rounds out our top 5 in this week's Player Heat Index. Next, I'd like to focus a little bit, and we're going to dive deeper into the MLB rankings for week 2. Number 1, you saw him in the top 5. Our number 1 baseball player for this week's MLB rankings is Shohei Ohtani from the LA Dodgers. And of course, Aaron Judge, number 5 overall. He's number 2 in this week's MLB rankings. Boston Red Sox prospect and rookie Roman Anthony. He checks in at number 3 with 85 points for this week. And then at number 4, also with 84 points, is Paul Skeens, Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher. He got the win in his latest outing against the Cincinnati Reds, striking out 5 batters over 5 innings and allowing just 1 run. A huge improvement from his opening day start after he lasted just 2/3 of an inning against the Mets. And then at number 5 for the MLB rankings in this week's Player Heat Index is Detroit Tigers infielder Kevin McGonigal with 83 points. If you check our GemRate.com data, there's been a 65% increase in McGonigal cards graded over the past week. And that is 4th overall in terms of the number of cards graded in the percentage increase for the Major League Baseball. McGonigal, he's likely an everyday player in the infield for the Tigers this season. I think that'll give him some significant upside to win AL Rookie of the Year, and I could see him certainly being a mainstay in the top 10 for our weekly MLB rankings, likely cracking the top 5 for the foreseeable future, especially as we see some of that GemRate data come in where his card grades are certainly increasing across the board. Some notes for this week's Player Heat Index rankings. We saw just 1 player across all of our rankings. This individual was outside the top 5, but the only player that we saw a slight bump in PHI rankings in terms of overall points was Jokic this week. He went from 82 points in week 1 to 84 points in week 2. Baseball, out of the 3 sports, and again, we are looking at data from the NBA, NFL, and MLB. Baseball had the largest drop of any sport from an individual player basis. We saw Shohei, even though he dropped down just a little in the overall rankings, the numbers, the Player Heat Index, the actual rating itself, he dropped 6 points compared to week 1. Aaron Judge was down 7 points from week 1. Roman Anthony down 6 points. The largest drop that we saw of any player in the Player Heat Index was Julio Rodriguez from the Seattle Mariners. He went from 72 points in week 1 down to now 61 points. This is likely due to the Major League Baseball market and the card market for MLB cooling off a little bit after opening day. We see this every single season. Quite a bit of consistent hype leading up to opening day. And then once the baseball season starts, some of the cards do cool off. Of course, there are certain circumstances like Kevin McGonigal, for example, where you might see a player increase quite a bit in the first few weeks of the season, especially if they get off to a hot start. But that market cooling off for Major League Baseball, not a red flag or a sign of things to come, just some trends that we've seen over the years for the baseball market. All right, now we're going to get into our second segment of the card report for this week, and that is our target cards. So we're going to take a look at a handful of players that were included in the Player Heat Index and try to focus on a few cards at a reasonable cost that we can target over the next week. And we are looking to either purchase and then flip raw, or purchase and then submit for grading. And hopefully those cards come back in at a PSA 10 so that we can maximize our profits on those types of opportunities. The first player we're going to take a look at is SGA from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Some big news coming out of the card market for SGA. He recently had a card sell for over $500,000 for the first time in his NBA career. That card was the 2019-2020 Panini Flawless Logo Man Auto 1 of 1, sold for over $500,000 just a few weeks ago. I like the SGA play currently because I feel his market is still undervalued compared to other key NBA stars like Wemby, Luka, and others. Of course, the biggest difference between SGA and some of those players like Wemby and Luka, SGA has an MVP. He also has a ring, and he could pick up both another MVP and a NBA championship this year with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Last year, we saw SGA prices drop even after the Thunder won and SGA captured his first NBA championship. If there's anything that impacts card prices more than player performance, it is hype. And the market prices the anticipation, but then also sells the news. So right now is a great time to get in on SGA, as the Thunder are looking at the number one seed out of the Western Conference, and they are one of the favorites to win the NBA championship for the 2025-26 NBA season. You can still snag SGA base Prism rookies in a PSA 10 condition for around $240 to $260. That's around the same price as a Wemby PSA 10 base Prism. Again, despite the fact that SGA, out of the two, is the only one with both an MVP and an NBA championship ring, on the verge of potentially capturing the second of both for this season. The card that we're targeting this week for SGA is his 2018-2019 NBA Hoops number 262 rookie. There's been 24 sales of that card over the last 7 days at an average of $13.33. This card is liquid. It is affordable. And the last PSA 10 sale for this card was $116 with a $135 7-day average. It's going to be hard to find a clean, raw card to grade for SGA in the 2018-19 Hoops number 262 rookie card. It is several years old at this point, but if we can find a raw card to grade, we're certainly going to try. If not, certainly raw, and then hold that card, and we can hope that it will increase in value over the course of the NBA playoffs coming up. All right, the second player we're going to focus on now is, once again, LA Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani. The MLB season is underway. Ohtani has under his belt for his career, 4 MVPs, 2 World Series championships. He is a baseball institution, and as an institution, he's also a very a graded player and sought after player in the card market. We're seeing Shohei, for example, his 2023 All Aces insert. Historically, that insert has been about a $10 card. It's now going for over $300 raw. The last sale on the card was on April 2nd. It went for $335. The PSA 10 for the 2023 All Aces insert right now is going for over $1,200. Shohei is off to a little bit of a slow start for the 2026 season. He was batting just .217 through the first week. But again, this is just noise, not a signal. We see him dominate on the mound. We see him being a threat in the batter's box. Really, the biggest flag for Shohei at the moment, in my personal opinion, we don't quite know what the ceiling on his market truly is. Could we see his cards soar to new heights, like his 2023 All Aces insert? Or is the market pricing him in a way that assumes he will remain stellar over the remainder of his career? To be determined, but I still think it's a great time to get in on Shohei cards at the moment. This week, we are going to target his 2018 Bowman number 49 rookie card. There's been 114 sales on that card over the last 7 days at an average of $92.87. The last sale on that 2018 Bowman rookie card went for $101. The PSA 10 in that card is going for well over $440 at the moment. Similar to SGA, his rookie cards are now 8 years old, so it might be difficult to find a mint or near mint condition raw card on the market, but if you can, it would be worth grading or at least holding. I do think we need to be selective on new buys for Shohei, but rookie Shoheis, even base rookies, are still worth considering. And then the last card we're going to target this week isn't really a card, but it's a set of cards or a player in particular, and that is Detroit Pistons Cade Cunningham. I'm cautiously optimistic on Cade. As you know, he did suffer a collapsed lung in March and has been out for a few weeks. However, we are seeing some positive signs of news surrounding Cade and the Detroit Pistons heading into the NBA playoffs. The Pistons did secure the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference for the NBA playoffs after a recent win over the Philadelphia 76ers. For Cade individually, he was reevaluated on April 2nd after suffering a collapsed lung. He will still be out a few more days until he's reevaluated, probably sometime around April 9th. But as of this recording, the Pistons, again, number 1 in the Eastern Conference. They're also 7-2 without Cade Cunningham. Those 2 losses were both in overtime. So the Pistons can win. They have a solid team. They have a solid core group of players. Obviously, they're better. They're more of a threat out of the East with Cade Cunningham in the lineup. But nevertheless, that team has not faltered down the stretch in the absence of Cade Cunningham. Reports coming out are that Cunningham will be a full go for the postseason, and that's according to a recent report as of today's recording from ESPN's Vance Goodwill. As you can see here, I have a few Cade cards that are set out. I have one Cade rookie PSA 10. This is a 2021 Mosaic Purple Fast Break out of 50. Again, PSA 10 condition there. And then the other card that I picked up a few weeks ago, $132 all in, was Cade Cunningham Signature Series Auto out of 15. This is from the 2024-25 Panini Donruss Signature Series. This was purchased just before his injury, and I was a little concerned regarding the uncertain status that Cade had coming down the stretch for the NBA playoffs and for the Pistons. But now that he is likely back for the NBA playoffs as a full go, I'm feeling good about both of these purchases, and we will look to see if we can flip those here heading into the playoffs, especially if the Pistons have a sustained run in the playoffs. That could boost Cade's market even further. Cade cards, including rookies, might be still a risky play at the moment as he continues to recover from his injury, but positive signs are that his prices could increase in the postseason. All right, so that completes our player heat index and our cards to target for this week's edition of the Card Report. Now we're going to get into some more entertainment. We're going to rip a mega box of 2025 Donruss Optic. We're ripping this box, one, because as you heard in our first episode, NFL cards are my favorite cards to purchase and rip, but also Panini recently lost the NFL license, and we are moving into a new day and age with the NFL card market, with Topps taking over the exclusive licensing for NFL cards, and Topps Chrome dropping on April 15th. They did have a pre-sale launch for hobby boxes, mega boxes, blasters, you name it. And so those cards will be on shelves here sometime in mid to late April for retail and otherwise likely in your local sports card store. So please check out those new cards coming out from Topps. But as of right now, we have in front of us a 2025 Donruss Optic Mega Box, hoping to pull something big, maybe a downtown. I have yet to pull a downtown live and in person from either a Donruss or a Donruss Optic. So let's see what we can get out of this week's Donruss Optic break for the Card Report. So we're going to get right into it here. I hope, again, once the camera angle is a little bit better this week for our box openings. Get everything set up. Got the empty box here. All right, so we have 6 packs of Donruss Optic to get into for this week's Card Report. Best of luck to me ripping and hopefully flipping some cards. Again, all the cards, all the hits that we pull out of our Donruss Optic packs will be available on the Card Report eBay store. Check the Card Report eBay store here, and good luck to us. All right, so first things first, you got a rookie, Abdul Carter, insert on the rookie. Kyron Williams here on the base, Justin Jefferson, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Ramsey, and TJ Watt. I'm going to try to shuffle some things around here, maybe put the packs over, and then some of the inserts there, and some of the base rookies kind of slide in right there. All right, so we got 5 packs to go. First pack, not much. Abdul Carter rookie on the insert. Let's see what we got here. All right, we got a Cam Ward rookie starting off decent on this one. And we also have a Quinshon Judkins rookie from the Browns. All right, Quinn Ewers Phenom patch. That's a rookie patch coming out for this Donruss Optic box. And then we got Max Crosby on the silver insert. All right, and I'm assuming the rest is going to be base. We got Tony Pollard, Eric Dickerson, and Buda Baker. Almost to the halfway point here for our Optic cards. All right, Cam Miller on the rookie. And we got Jack Sawyer also on the rookie. A little insert of Cameron Hayward from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Got Pacheco, Tien, Calvin Johnson, Megatron, and Jacoby Myers on the base. All right, halfway down, I'm assuming the Ewers patch is likely going to be probably the best pull out of here, but you never know. We can always be surprised with some Donruss Optic. I got a blue back here, so I got back on the rookie. Jordan James on the blue. And I got Bryce Young, Chase Brown, Njoku, and Josh Downs. All right, 2 packs left. See if we got anything good before signing off this week. Tyler Loop, kicker, rookie kicker. All right. Curtis Wirt, QB rated rookie. Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame cornerback. That one might just go into the personal collection. I do collect Notre Dame cards, both the collegiate cards, but also NFL players from Notre Dame. We got DJ Moore, Spears, Leggett, and Ramondre. All right, last pack this week for Donruss Optic. Let's see if we get any big pulls out of this last pack. All right, we got Genty. All right, Gunnar Helm on the blue. And I think the rest is probably going to be base. Mixon, Terry Bradshaw, Jameson, Burrow, and Dante Culpepper on the base. All right, so some of the pulls we have here. I got Gunnar Helm on the blue Hyper. Got Ashton rookie. Benjamin Morrison on the blue. Jordan James on the blue. Cameron Hayward. Insert on chain reaction for the Steelers. Got Max Crosby on the silver. Ewers, this is probably the best pull from the box. That's the Ewers rookie patch from the Dolphins on the blue. And we have Quinshon Judkins rookie, Cam Ward rookie, and an Abdul Carter insert primary colors on the rookie as well. All right, well, thank you again for tuning in. Again, the Card Report eBay store. All these hits will be posted on the Card Report eBay store after today's show, so please check that out. Also, like and subscribe the Card Report YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the Card Report YouTube channel. We will be back next week, week 3, for more player heat index rankings and another rip of some retail wax. Thanks again for tuning in to the Card Report, and we will see all of you next week.